Hi everybody, welcome back to Tiny Garage Fabrication. Today, we're either going to make it or break it. Alright, on the list for today, going to try to install the HVAC system, at least make the brackets for it. I just want to fabricate them because those brackets, the pedal support bracket that I made last time and the seat mount brackets, which I'm also going to get to today, all of those, plus maybe a few more, are going to get powder coated. I do my own powder coating as well, so there will be a video on all of that. I have a bunch more parts to powder coat also, including my brake calipers, front and rear. Those are the 4-piston calipers from the Jaguar XJ6 front end, and also the calipers, don't have any available right now, but they're for the Ford Explorer 8.8-inch rear end. So, here is my HVAC unit. It's dirty, but I swear it's new. It's from NAP, which is either Nostalgia Air or Nostalgic Air. It's an OK Systems from their Universal Street Rod Systems. It has 2 mounting brackets on the sides. I need to get it under the dash. I do have some limitations under there. What I'm looking for is I want it to be tucked away so it doesn't interfere with your feet, and so that when you're sitting down in the seat, you don't really have to see the thing. So I want it to tuck up underneath. The way I'm doing all the wiring and gauges is there's almost no wiring behind the dash. No radio, not a lot of wiring for the gauges. I'll show you why in an upcoming video. But anyway, all of the fuse block and everything will be underneath the driver's seat. And the air ride controls are going to be underneath the passenger seat. So that takes care of most of the electronics, the wiring, the boxes, all that stuff will be out of the way. I've done wiring under the dash before, and sometimes when there gets to be so much, it's just kind of a pain in the butt to not only to install, but also you got to be careful. You kind of, you don't want to short or ground anything. So with that, I make sure that everything is like in a place that's very accessible now. So we're going to get to the HVAC system, and another one of the things that's in the way is the glove box liner. That thing is super deep. It goes from the dash all the way to the firewall, so I may shorten it a little bit, and that's just so I can tuck it up under that side. The other thing that may get in the way is something that's super cool with these trucks. It is the original cowl vent. Now this handle comes down. This is on the driver's side. But anyway, when you pull this up, it's not all installed right now, but when you pull this lever forward or rearward, it opens up the scoop right here and lets fresh air into the cab. Pretty cool deal. Something found on old trucks, but I want to keep this functional. So luckily this is on the left side of the towards the left side of the cab, so I may be able to scoot the box a little more this way and run it up. Just want to make sure I have enough room to rattle the hoses as well as keep it tucked up. So let's get to it. Alright, well, this wouldn't make for good YouTubes unless there was some drama, right? So first things first, I forgot how the cowl vent even goes in, so I just kind of attached it from the underside for now. I'm going to have to do some research. It's actually supposed to be on the top side here and screwed down. It's in screwed up. It's very finicky. I think I might have to take the whole thing apart. Thing is, I don't remember taking it apart to pull it out. I pulled this one out, and I also pulled another one out of a junkyard with nothing but a flathead screwdriver, so I know it comes out without having to be disassembled. Well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it comes out and just won't go back in. The other thing here is a cool support brace that I made. Well, the handle sits but a 1/4 inch from it. Not really such a big deal, except when you go to open the vent, it hits on there. It doesn't open 100% of the way. However, when this is mounted on the outside like it's supposed to be, there will be about another 1/4 inch of clearance. So this knob should be able to just barely clear this plate. The problem is that's where one of the nuts and bolts goes that attaches it. So we'll have to see if that's all the way open. Actually, it looks like it is. Looks like it's out of travel on the arm. Yeah, it is. So that's all the way open. So I guess the clearance isn't that bad of that big of a deal. But I'm still going to make sure that that works and doesn't interfere with anything else. But the good news is this doesn't really bring much interference at all. Let's try to get up here. So where the HVAC needs to go, that doesn't appear to really impede it much. There's these little brackets right here hang down. I'd say that's just a little under 3 inches. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. There should be enough room right there totally for the HVAC to go. Defroster ducts are straight up here. You can see a little slit, that's where the defroster is. So hopefully I can get it set off to this side so I have a good run for the defroster hoses. And then For the regular air hoses, I think one of the vents is going to be in the center. I've got two little ball vents that I'll put on the sides under here, and that should be enough. It's a really small cab, so that ought to be enough heating and air conditioning for it. Well, I'm going to get the glove box, install it, and then put the box in, put the HVAC box in, and see how it works. Alright, well, I don't think it's going to turn out quite like I want it to. Put the glove box in. So here's the glove box liner. As you can see, it's deep. It really does go almost all the way back to the end of the firewall. I could trim a little bit, but it still wouldn't be enough. The AC box is going to have to go roughly here. I got to post up on some junk right now. Going to make some proper brackets for it. I was hoping maybe it would fit in between that handle and the glove box, but it doesn't. It's about 2 inches too wide. So having it tucked up nice and neat under the very middle of the dash, just not going to happen. So I'll put it down here. I got a bucket and I sat in it and I put my feet down here, and there's, even where it's at, there's plenty of room for feet to go. I'm a size 12 and I'm not in the way, and where it's going to be, you'll even be able to put your feet up behind it. Kind of hard to see that, but there's going to be enough room. This thing should be comfy enough, even with it in the way it is. It's going to be shifted to the left a couple inches as well, because I'm not going to have it go into the side panel here. Let me get a light. There we go. It's a little better. So it's not going to go into that little cove over there. So shift to the left a little bit. Here's the footwell. Plenty of room. Here's my heel, and it should be alright. So, on to making some brackets. Well, turns out I did it again, made a mistake. Thought I had a great idea, turned out it was a bad idea. Anyway, enough talking about it. Let me show you what I did, and I'll talk you along as I go through it. So, there's the HVAC box. I just took the glove box liner back out. So, I thought, kind of hard to see here, but these two bolts, those actually are threaded. They come, the hood hinge comes through there, and I was going to use extra long bolts so I could use nuts to tie this on the back. So here's a bracket that kind of comes along the back, comes underneath the unit, and then it was going to come up and tie into the back side of the dash. Well, the thing is, well, let me grab a light. There we go. So here's the bracket. Now, I just made this out of some junk I had laying around. I was going to, this is just a mock-up, so, you know, it looks ugly as hell, because it is ugly as hell. So, here's what I came up with, and I'll show you why it sucks. So this is to sit in here like that, and, well, that big piece of steel across the front is why it sucks. Let me show you what I saw after I got in here. Right up there are 3 holes where the hood, the other part of the hood hinge, comes through the side of the truck. Now, you might see what I'm seeing here as soon as I put this in place. The box can still sit about here, but now I can just take that bracket and flip it upside down and run it to those holes up there. So that way I won't have a big bracket right in the front. No eyesore you'll have to look at when you're sitting in the passenger seat or the driver's seat. It should be plenty secure. 3 bolts over there come straight down to the side. This other side has a little bracket, and it is going to come straight up and tie into this bar right here. See that hole? That's kind of where it's going to tie into. Is the nice little support for the entire dash. So that way all the hanging material will be upwards. Most of the weight's on this side where the motor is. There's almost no weight over here. So one little strand ought to be just fine. So I'm going to work on that and see what we come up with. have spent all day on this HVAC bracket. I finally have it done. It was kicking my butt. I mean, I wasn't working the hardest today, but still there were so many things in the way, so many things to consider, so much stuff I had to do. I didn't document any of this. I'll show it to you now, but it was just too much to put on film. I know there's 2 little brackets, seems pretty small. It's absolutely minimal, but it works out. So I'll show you what I did, show you what it does, show you why I did it. Alright, so there it is. It's in place. There's plenty of room for feet, plenty of room to get your toes up underneath there. I left this hole open right here for the condensate drain. The little nipple for it's right here, so I'll have a short hose run. Goes right out there, that way we don't flood the interior when the air conditioner is pumping. Over here, I used some of that flat steel that I used for the mock-up on the other side. I just went ahead and used it for this. It's not the prettiest, but you know, it's not the worst. So this is a 2-piece configuration over here. That was just the easiest way to get it done. I mean, this is 2-inch wide, 1/8 thick. And then it holds up right there on the dash support. Now I was thinking about doing a second, maybe even a third hole in there, but man, this thing it's held in place. It's held in pretty well. I'm not worried about it moving too much, even with just one mounting hole. Now on this side, kind of hard to see there, but oops, we got it in to the side of the unit, and then it comes up this way, and then it goes in right there. Now those 3 bolts hold in the outer hood hinge. This truck actually has 4 hinges. There's 2 main ones in the front, and then it has side ones. They need to be adjustable, so those holes are all drilled oversized. Now notice this one right here, this forwardmost one, doesn't really, it's not the best. You can see that nut is kind of barely on there. What I might do is just even cut that part of the bracket out. I think just the 2 bolts in the back will be enough. Maybe I'll get a thin nut and put it on the, alright, my light's in the way there. Maybe I'll get a thin nut and put it behind all of that. That way the hood hinge can be tight, and then I can tighten the bracket up using that 3rd one still. The back ones are good, but anyway, all those holes are oversized, so you can move the hinge forward, backwards, up and down just a little bit. That way you can set the alignment and the body gaps and everything. I kept all that stuff in there, even through the bracket. All those holes are oversized to those studs, that way you can still move it around. And I'm going to take these out, I'm going to sandblast them, I'm going to powder coat them, and they're going to look nice. It's going to be functional. I'll show you here. This thing, I'm rocking it back and forth pretty good. It doesn't move. It doesn't move forward, it doesn't move backwards, it doesn't move up, it doesn't move down. Held really well, I think. So next up, I just have to figure out where I'm going to put the vents. I was at a swap meet this morning. I got a couple of things. Really only one thing, well, 2 things I can use in there. I got some little air conditioner vent pods. I was going to 3D print some, but I found these for $1. And it's pretty much what I could have made. The AC louvers that I have will fit right in here. You know, you'll still be able to see the hose and stuff out of the back if you get under the dash, but you'd be able to see all that crap anyway, so not too terribly bad. And there's one that's going to go over there. Alright, all finished up with the HVAC brackets. Going to go ahead and change gears now and work on the seat mount bases. So I had designed these in Fusion 360. I took a bunch of measurements, did a whole bunch of brainstorming, put in a lot of cool features into them, and then I cut them out on a water jet out of 1/8" steel. Everything's curved. I have to fold it, I have to weld it, I have to put it in, test fit it, and you know, hope it all works. So, without further ado, here they are. There we go. 3 pieces. I have the outer plates, the inner plates, and this is a tie bar for the rear. The front side is going to get something, a cover, but they're going to have slide out panels. That's where I'm going to mount the fuse box and probably make like an auxiliary glove box under the passenger seat. So here they are. These cutouts are for some little pods that I made. I made these previously before I ever started recording, but this one's going to have, so this is the driver's seat. Underneath it will be 2 USB plugs for convenience and a 12-volt plug, because you know, it's a 70-year-old truck, but why not have modern convenience in it? And under the passenger seat has the same type of cutouts. I've got this little gem. This is the 4 buttons for the air ride control. It does have AccuAir, so we have all down, level 1, level 2, level 3. Whenever it's engaged, the LED ring behind each light, whichever one is active, the LED will turn on. So these are all white lights, that's a red light. Pretty cool little deal. You know, 4 small switches. I've got cool little pigtails to go on there, so wiring will be easy. And that's about it. So I'm going to start bending these things up, and we'll see how they turn out. Alright, here we go. The bases are installed. These plates I welded in when I did the floor. It's an 1/8 inch plate with a 3/8 flange nut welded to the back of it. So I've got nice, solid, it's a grade 8 nut as well. It's a good, solid bases for these to go into. Now the profile that I cut into it kind of makes sense. I left about 3/8 of an inch here for the Dynamat, the padding, the carpet. This little cutout is so that I can have wires, since the fuse boxes are going to be under here, I can have wires pass out, and it's a mirror image on the other side. So wires will go out here that have to go forward to the engine or wherever they need to go. I cut room for the hump right here, and then it follows the contour back here, just enough for padding and carpet. And kind of the same deal on the other side. It's just straight, there's no cutouts for wires because I don't plan on running wiring down that skinny little strip over there. Should just come forward to where it needs to be. Let me grab the tie bar. So this here is the piece that goes in the back. This is what's going to tie them together to keep them kind of boxed in. And it also has a wiring cutout in the back. And again, this is going to be on both seats. So get in there. You can see those holes right there, holes right there. I'd say they're pre-drilled, but they're actually pre-cut. So this should go in, square everything up. I'm going to do some more fitting before I weld any of this, but they seem solid, they seem good, they seem level. And should be a nice little install when it's all done. I'm excited. Alright, seat bases are in. I got the tie bar hooked up. I got the seats themselves in. I still need to build new brackets for the rear of the sliders. On the front though, everything bolts in the way I wanted it to. I slotted everything just in case there was any random adjustment that I needed. So the rear feet I gotta make. These seats are out of a Subaru Forester. Still not 100% sure with the looks. I'm gonna have to wait until the whole thing is built to see if I really like the way they look in there. I might need to get some covers. Might have to go get some leather seats, maybe a different color. I'm not sure. But these are cool because they're cloth, so they're comfortable, and they're even heated, which is kind of rare for a cloth seat. It's usually something you find on leather. I'll show you the other side. So there's the other side. It actually has a plastic cover. The other one, the inside never came with one just because of how they bolt into the Subaru. There's like a center console that comes up there, so no need for covers. I may need to do something, I guess, with all the wiring and everything, which is going to be under there. I may have to build a lid for this, or just another cover that comes down on this side. Gonna have to build a little cover for the rear. Anyway, there's gonna be some stuff going on, but it's gonna match what I'm gonna put on the front, which will be an aluminum panel, and it will probably be bead rolled and engine turned, something like that. Just trying to make it a little bit fancy, but not overkill. So I'm just gonna fiddle around with this a little bit more tonight. Not gonna do much else on camera, and come back tomorrow. I got some more things planned, and we'll see what I can get done. Today is tomorrow. I had a little bit of time to think last night. I sat in the truck, sat in the seat, you know, had my hand on the steering wheel, foot on the pedals, making vroom vroom sounds, just kind of contemplating how the interior is coming together. I was thinking maybe it looked too modern for like the old patina build. Even though some of it's nice, some of it's old, I still felt that the seats had kind of too much of a modern touch, so I wasn't really digging it. But I thought about it for a while. I don't want to spend the time or the money to replace it. The seats end up really close to each other anyway. I'll show you that in just a second. You can see how close the bases are, where the parking brake handle has to be, where the shifter has to be, just because of the systems in this truck. Ultimately, I decided the seats that I have in it now are going to be worth it. At worst, I could get some seat covers for it, maybe some old, you know, Mexican blankets, or maybe some like Carhartt duck or something like that that looks kind of old but doesn't look as modern as they do now. But the thing that changed my mind the most, I did a simple thing, and all I did was I took off the headrests, made the whole thing kind of come into its own. So headrest came up, it kind of obscured the back window a little bit. Didn't look that great. Took the headrests out, and I think it gave it a look that I can live with. So let me show you the room between the seats. So I bent up the other inner plate. I still have to cut another outer plate. I didn't have enough steel with me when I was running the water jet. I was a few inches too short, so got to get some more steel. Got to go back. But there's about 12 inches between the seats. That hole right there is for the emergency brake or parking brake, and the shifter will come out right through that little extension piece. So the shifter is pretty close to the seat. I'm going to have to do some cool bending and angles to make that work out, but it's going to be a super cool product when I'm done. I've got some really neat ideas, and those will be in a future video. So the whole thing's dirty. That hole right there is actually going to be where all the wiring goes out for the brake lights and the fuel level sender, and also for the air ride stuff, the solenoid pack, and the wiring for the compressor and so on and so forth. I'm going to 3D print a cool little pass-through that goes through there, so it'll be watertight, it'll be low profile, it'll be super custom and super cool. Hopefully. But that's what I came up with last night. Then I can move on to the next thing, which is applying sound deadener. Apply sound deadener to the entire floor, to most of the back cab wall, and most of the ceiling. I have the new headliner just kind of in place. I thought I would need that just to kind of break up the looks of how things were when I wasn't happy with the seat. I threw it in, you know, so while I was sitting in here, I had the headliner to kind of pull my eyes away from the break in continuity, so to speak, up there. And so that kind of helped me make up my mind to keep the seats. Alright, back to work on the old Ford. I stayed up way too late last night doing sound deadening on it, probably till about midnight. It's like 9 o'clock now. So the next morning, didn't get a whole lot of sleep because I got a whole lot to do. Take a look at what I did. This is NVX. I think it's 90 mil sound deadener. NVX is a stereo company. They make speakers, amps, things like that. This stuff is the same quality as Dynamite Extreme. I've used both. This is about half the price. You know, I just cut sheets into sections and put it the insides of my doors. I got on the cab wall. I did the roof as well. Just had the headliner in there. Needed to locate the hole. There's a bracket in the top with a screw that helps hold all that up. Then I had to drill new holes for the little for the side pieces to go into. This new headliner, the holes are in different spots than the old one was. So I drilled new holes. I do have to pull the headliner out one more time because I have to run a wire. This right here, I'm going to rerun this in new wire. This goes up to a little light bar that's actually on the front of the cab that I'm going to keep. I think it looks pretty cool, so I'm going to go back to that. So I have a bunch more sound deadening to do today. The other door, as well as the firewall and the floor so I'm going to get to it. Alright, here's what I've been doing so far. The sound deadener comes in sheets. They're folded up just for better packaging, but they're 18 inches by 32 inches. And what I've been doing is grabbing a razor knife and just cutting them up into 6 sections a piece. So I get this fold line, smooth it out a little bit, press hard, cut through there, and lay it over there. Now I've decided that the cab floor and slightly up into the firewall should take about 2 sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up 2 sheets worth. There we go. I've got a neat, manageable stack. Go ahead and find where I want them to go. Stick them in, roll them down. I've got sound deadener on the majority of the floor. And once again, this stuff works good at just 30 to 50% coverage. So I've got roughly that. And the inside of the door, I've got up into the door panels. I don't have the firewall done yet. I'm going to start that next. Just wanted to show some progress of what I've got done. It used to sound like a tin can, and now it's got some good thuds to it. Even the doors sound pretty good. There's going to be an additional layer of something else going in here, as well as on the back of this. Now that rattle is actually it's this stuff. It's the door hardware. So maybe I'll try to find some felt gaskets or something that I can put in there. Maybe quiet that down a little bit. But this thing's coming along nicely. Sounds a lot better than it did. And I'm going to keep on trucking. After I get the sound deadener in, I'm probably going to lay out the wiring harness and see how big of a pain in the butt that's going to be. Alright, finally got all of the sound deadener under the dash on the firewall. I even went all the way under to where the cowl is, the top of the firewall, everything's covered. You know, like I said, not 100% coverage, but man, this thing does not sound like it used to. Even me just talking in the cab right now, I'm sure my audio quality sounds better now than it did yesterday. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. The thing's a lot less rattly. It feels more solid. And after I get some more deadener on the firewall, plus the carpet in here, the carpet that I have has a mass backing, which is like another extra layer of this type of sound deadener. So this thing should be pretty comfy to cruise in. I'm going to go get the wiring harness and start laying it out. Alright, here we go. I got started on the wiring. This is actually after it's been taken out of the box and a lot of stuff has been rerouted and rebundled. The way it came the way that would make sense to put it in a regular car. However, I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is I'm putting the fuse block underneath the seat. I'm going to make a slide out tray for it to be on for easy access. So basically what I've got here is a couple of bundles. I routed everything so it kind of makes sense for this particular application. So, fuse block. Here's a couple things that I wasn't going to use because the truck doesn't have them, such as power windows, power locks, trunk light, dome light, which I'll probably wire, stereo constant, stereo keyed source. Those I'll probably use, and this is for an electric fan, which I do have an electric fan, but yeah, it's not going to take the amperage this little wire can put out. And also cruise control. However, some of these wires I may reutilize up in the dash and some stuff. Like I do have heated seats. I do want to put another 12-volt power source up there. And a couple other things that I've got going on. So I may reroute some of these up to the dash. And this right here is my bundle that's all going to the dash. So it's got all this stuff. The ends need to be put on still before the turn signal stock and the ignition. There's wiper motor, stuff like that. Anyway, this bundle is basically for the front headlights and things like that. This bundle pertains pretty much all to the engine. This bundle running through here obviously is for the fuel tank and tail lights. And this little bundle right here is the stuff that would run under the dash for the gauges. It's staying down here under the seat because that's where I'm wiring my gauges. There will be more to follow on that, but I've got a little neat little box where I wire everything in, and it sends just one single cable up to the back of the dash for my gauges. So I kind of got this so it'll set in, it'll sit on that little tray, be able to move it in, move it out. I still have to work on that portion of exactly how it's going to articulate, but that's what I came up with. And now I've just got to drill some holes, put in some grommets, run some wires, terminate everything. So basically about 20 more hours worth of work, but it'll get there. Most all of it's going to happen off camera. Sorry about that, but I'll pop in periodically and show some things here and there. Alright, let's get to it. I've done the wiring for a bit. I think I'm at a stopping point for the night. Let me show you what I've got here. So this is kind of how it's going to be under the seat. Nothing's really quite tacked down yet, but these will go through that little notch that I made. And these two pass-throughs, I decided to just go ahead and route the wires under the truck. This bundle is for the headlights and the front harness. This whole bundle right here is for the engine and the main power harness. Now they're going to run through, and when the trans cover bolts on, I'll have some clips that use the back side of those bolts to hold all this stuff. So it'll run straight under the cab. The engine part will peel up and go across the firewall, so that we don't have wires hanging all over the firewall. And then this one will run straight down the frame rail and then up the core support and into the lights where it needs to go. So when you open the hood, it should be very clean, very clutter-free. There are a few of these wires I'm going to end up using for the AccuAir, for 12 volts into the dash, for the heated seats, stuff like that. So I didn't cut these out yet. I still need to figure out exactly where I'm going to route them. This whole group here is going to go to the dash, and it's going to come out, it's going to make a 90, it's going to travel on top of the trans tunnel, and then head up the firewall, branch out to where it needs to go. Still just these couple that go out the rear. Now let me show you, I still have a lot of cleaning up to do, but when this thing's mounted, it'll be just behind the front of the seat, and when you pull out the tray, everything will be able to move and then move back. So once this wiring's cleaned up a bit, it won't drag as much. Everything's going to be wrapped up in Tessa tape. It's going to be really nice, good looking, should be very flexible, very movable. That way, if you blow a fuse, slide the tray out, change your fuse, put it back in, and then you don't have to worry about having just a big cluster of junk down there. Done that before, not a fan of it, so I decided I, kind of remote mount the fuse box, and then sitting right behind this box will be the gauge box. So all the gauges will plug into there, and then a single cable goes up to the dash. So that's all coming in the future. I'm super tired, been a really long day. Next, throughout the week, I'm going to work on, getting these taped up. I'm going to pull each of these wires individually and make sure that they're routed in the best possible way through here so that they'll be able to make smooth transitions to where they need to go. I'll get these laid out. I should have all the wiring wrapped up, laid out. I still have to extend every one of these wires, which is kind of a pain in the butt. So all these that I cut, these are the ones that will go to the turns to the steering column, to that connector. They were pretty short out of the fuse box because generally that would be right next to each other. But since I'm about 4 feet away now, I have to add about 4 feet of wire to all of these. Not a big deal, just a couple of solder joints and some heat shrink. So I'm going to get that taken care of and get this thing wired up. And next weekend, I should be dropping an engine in this thing. Alright everybody, well, thanks for hanging out in the tiny garage with me today. We got a whole bunch of stuff done. I got sound deadening in, I got brackets made, I got the wiring started, I got the seat brackets, decided on the seats, started on the headliner, did a lot of interior work, still got a whole lot to go, still got some more weekends. Today is March the 11th, I believe. I'm shooting to drive this thing, well, not drive it, but fire it up, have the engine in, have the engine running by the end of the month. That includes a lot of extra detail work, like having the dash completely done. So, if it was just like drop in the engine, wire it up, fire it, I could do that next weekend, no problem. But I don't want to have to do that and then backtrack and do a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to try to do a natural progression, try to get this interior built, because once the cab's on the frame, interior is built, wired, and plumbed, everything just kind of grows from there. So it'll be real easy that, you know, once the engine's in and fired, I can start putting the fenders on, start wiring, you know, the lights and all that stuff, start running the air ride. So I need to make sure that all my air lines go to where they are. I got to build a couple brackets to put the compressors and tanks in the back, and then the thing will be able to just get up and actually go on its own. The bed's going to be the very last thing to go on. I haven't even started on bed mounts yet, because I can actually drive the thing without a bed. As long as I got tail lights, license plate light, and a gas tank, then, you know, we're good to go. So I'm going to drive it for a little while, shake it down while I plan, design, and build the bed mounts. But that's hopefully next month, hopefully in April. By the end of April, I hope to have this thing done and up for sale. And that's April 2018. I'm going to try to sell this thing. It'll be up on eBay unless I find a local buyer. But that's the plan here. If you like what you see, you know, shoot me a comment. If you don't like what you see, also shoot me a comment. You can check me out on Instagram at TinyGarageFab. I post a lot of daily updates. In between videos, I only do the videos once a week. Generally release them on Wednesdays, and that's from the work I do over the weekend. So I'm in here a little bit every night, doing some stuff, and then throughout the weekend, things that don't get filmed, I'll post up there. So you can check me out. Like, subscribe, please, comment, and let's just keep on building cool stuff. All right, take care, everybody.